Welcome to another episode of Adelaide City Talks, where we discuss news and events happening in the City of Adelaide, particularly in relation to the Adelaide City Council. My name's Henry Davis, and I'm a councillor for the South Ward. Unfortunately, my co-host Mary is not here today, and I'm sorely missing her. I'm sure she's enjoying her time away. This will be a special budget edition, going through the budget from last night's council meeting. And I would like to remind viewers that these are my personal views and not an expression of the actual views of council. So last night we had the council budget, and it's been in draft consultation for a number of weeks. It went out basically at the last moment just so that we could hit this council meeting, which was before the 30 June. Now, my biggest criticism of this to date has been that we haven't been able to properly discuss the budget because we haven't really had the opportunity to see what it looks like. So this is the actual budget itself. It's a massive document. It's got 158 pages in it, and it has a lot of detail in terms of where we spend our money and what the strategic plan and outlook for the city actually looks like. The difficulty is that we received the draft budget, which would go out to consultation about a week before we actually had to finalize it, meaning that we had little time to actually interrogate what was in it. And we actually had a special meeting, not really a special meeting, but we had a finance and governance meeting, which was held on the Thursday before the council meeting. And 2 days before that, we actually received the budget. So a lot of the detail has actually been left off of it, and a lot of discussions that we've had has been completely missed out, which I think is very much the detriment of our ratepayers. Now, last night, I was extremely disappointed by the outcome, and there's a few major topics that I want to go through on the agenda. Now, the first thing was the Adelaide Fringe. So we had a deputation from the event organisers from the Adelaide Fringe, and we've actually received an email last night from the artistic director of the Garage International, who were very disappointed with council's decision to reinstate Parkland's fees for those events. So the Adelaide City Council used to charge fees to occupy for event organisers to occupy parts of the parklands, and they're looking to reinstate that in full this year, saying that because of COVID, everybody's recovered. Now, it's actually true that the Fringe is doing extremely well. It's got very good ticket sales last year, but this is in the context of a number of years of shutdown where the Fringe couldn't operate to its full capacity. They're trying to bring people back in, trying to bring acts back into the city and encourage people to participate in the Fringe. And what the council is going to do in one foul swoop is introduce hundreds of thousands of dollars of fees for the Fringe and from gluttony. And the event organisers are extremely unhappy about this, and they made a deputation. So Councillor Abrahimzadeh had an alternative motion to bring back progressively the fees for the Fringe at 25% in the first year, 50%, 75%, and 100%. So over 4 years, rebuild up these fee structures so that they wouldn't be hit on their budget. The council dismissed that and didn't go ahead, and they actually decided, rather than go with what would have been a 75% reduction in the fees as proposed by Councillor Abrahimzadeh, was to give them a 13% reduction in the fees. So the square metre rate per day, I believe, is $68.5, and the proposal was to only reduce that down to $60 per day for 1,000 square metres of parklands. This actually has a massive impact on the Fringe in terms of its budget and its ability to spend, and particularly the profitability of those businesses that go and occupy the Fringe events in those stalls. And I'm sure if you've been there, the food is already extremely expensive. So with those fees coming back in, I feel like it's going to absolutely deter people from being able to afford to go to the Fringe and eat out and actually enjoy it. And a lot of the times when you just wander around the Fringe, as I'm sure many of us do, you see a show that might pop up or someone gives you a flyer, and it's an ability to connect as a community and then go and see some of those shows maybe on a more ad hoc basis. My fear now is that going there for a dinner with a couple of friends will become extremely expensive, and people will be deterred from doing that, not just this year, but next year and forever. And that's a major problem going forward with the Fringe. The other issue is outdoor dining fees. Now, our traders have, for the last 3 years during COVID, and I know everyone's a bit sick of it and it feels like it's over, but if you're a local business owner and you haven't been able to get people into your pub or your restaurant, you've had to foot the bill for that, for the rent, for the costs. of not doing business for any loans that you might have over your business. A lot of these people, in terms of their fit out, they've borrowed money to invest in the fit out of the restaurant, and they're still doing it extremely tough, and they haven't by any means recovered. Not only that, the number of people who are now going to work in the city on a regular basis and having their lunch in some of the restaurants here, not everybody's back in the city, and a lot of workplaces have now permanently moved to a situation where their workers will be working from home, and that's also hit our local traders. Now, yesterday I had the opportunity to, I think it was actually on Monday, so 2 days ago, I walked down Rundle Street and I was doing some door knocking and speaking with local traders there. And the odd thing is that you can only knock on every second door because there are so many places up for lease or closed and shut and boarded up. And I think that's a really disappointing thing. So we're looking to reintroduce outdoor dining fees when we've got a huge amount of vacancies in one of our prime streets, on Rundle Street, and there's all those vacancies there. And I think that's a real concern. You add on top of the increased parking fees, 8 new parking inspectors with they're expected to raise $2.5 million worth of revenue. That's a real concern, I think, for the city in terms of deterring people from coming here. And I'm really, really worried that it's going to hit our traders hard, which then hits our businesses hard and makes the city a place where nobody wants to really do business, or they don't want to have their head offices here. And I mean, particularly in Adelaide, the vibrancy that a capital city can offer to large ASX-listed companies is really important. And that's made up of those streetscapes and the ability for people to access high-quality restaurants and live in a vibrant city. And that enables those larger businesses and those larger corporations to attract people who actually want to come and live in Adelaide. And so I'm concerned that that really hasn't been thought of in this budget. And in fact, it's been doing the complete opposite. So I do have a very, I suppose, pessimistic or worried view about the future of Adelaide, given the strategy moving forward. There's also been a number of submissions made to the council from trading groups like the Property Council, talking about the impost of these fees, and all of those concerns have been largely ignored. And it's back to normal for council, reinstating all these fees. It probably represents a few $1 million in terms of revenue for council, but it's absolutely not back to normal for traders who are still recovering from COVID. Another group that hasn't been listened to, which I'm sorely disappointed about, who made a massive representation, is the Park 21 West users. So there was a petition earlier in the year of about 650 people who wrote to council asking for assistance and a report on how they could deliver an important sporting infrastructure project in Park 21 West. The project itself is mainly change rooms. With the changes to access to change rooms and the rules and regulations when it comes to sport, you can't just shove everybody in one change room anymore. So now with women and men, you have separate change rooms. You also have juniors, and you also have umpires who all need to be separated in their change rooms, as well as disability access. So in some cases, you're looking at potentially 6 or 7 change rooms in a sporting facility, and that takes up a massive footprint. So Park 21 West is a sporting club on the corner of South Terrace and Goodwood Road, just across from those netball courts, and they asked council for assistance. Now, originally the budget, it was put to council when it was rushed through to us at the last moment, about $5 million, which I think was far in excess of what they really needed. What they've come back to us with is asking for council for $1.7 million. They have personally put in money. The club has raised money through their bar and other fundraising activities, and the state government has put in money, and they're looking for about $1.7 million to deliver this project. Unfortunately, that club will be let down, I fear. And the council, I feel like this is just clever politics. So what they're going to do now, and the council decided this 2 hours before the budget meeting and 2 hours before that we were meant to make the decision on this budget allocation, was that they were going to seek a report from council to talk about how we could fund community sporting infrastructure across the entire city. And then we would assist Axara to redesign their proposed club rooms basically to a very limited state, which didn't require any a contribution from council. Now, I made the point in this subcommittee that the actual motion that they were moving meant that they would be redesigning this down to a much reduced club rooms, which they couldn't possibly cater to their membership and deliver on what they need to do. One of the major criticisms is about community space and about providing facilities for members to meet, have something to eat, and hang out after they train. And for me, that's a really, really important part of sporting groups. And I actually had the opportunity to go and present at the awards for the Blue Brigade, which is a cricket club. And there was a good 100 people there. We had dinner. It was homemade food. And there was kids running around and families were able to chat to each other. And it was a really great atmosphere. That part of having community facilities is essential for all sporting clubs to survive, whether it's partners or even after a game, allowing players to actually mingle and have some sense of community. Now, in our society, with the loss of a lot of community groups, and probably I think everyone, it's an easy target saying it's all social media's fault, but I do think it has a role to play. We've absolutely lost those connections that we used to have in society with each other, and sporting groups are really the last stronghold of where people can find community. And there's reports coming out about massive amounts of like unprecedented numbers of male loneliness in our society, where people feel isolated and alone and they can't actually connect with other people. And that has serious mental health impacts. It also has very serious impacts on their health alone. So in my view, there's about, for $1.7 million, what we're getting is a redeveloped facility with state and money from the clubs to reinvest in community infrastructure. And the criticisms, I think, leveled at the club are completely unwarranted. The mayor in the committee meeting last night said that it was unfair because these users came from around the state and ratepayers shouldn't be paying for those facilities. Well, in the same breath, last night, we also approved $20 million for the Aquatic Centre, which has about 1 million visitors a year and potentially more with the proposed upgrade of an now $120 million build. But those visitors don't come from the city either. So to me, it seems like a lot of politicking is going on to fob off this sporting infrastructure and what I think is a really important development. This also raises really serious concerns for me for all the other sporting infrastructure. What I would like to see in the City of Adelaide is that we have a hub approach. We consolidate some of these clubs and give them better facilities that they can use on a regular basis. So in Burnside, when I was a councillor there was a precinct called the Glenunga Hub, and it combined a number of sporting clubs under one roof, and they had a timeshare. So there was soccer, there was cricket, there was AFL, who all used that precinct, and rugby as well on a regular basis. And that was supported by council, state government, and I believe federal funding as well. And that precinct is absolutely amazing and gives them the community space they need. Now, for all of the other sporting groups in the city, the message is basically that the council is not going to take responsibility for this. And the messaging is that this is not the job of council. My view is that sporting infrastructure delivered in your council area is absolutely the core responsibility of council, and absolutely a core requirement of our job. And it seems like this council wants to abandon that. So it will come back in September with some kind of policy. I don't know what that's going to be. A lot of these questions don't get answered in these committees. I have really no insight into what the council is going to, what direction they're going to go. And I feel like a lot of these decisions are being made without consultation of the council and behind closed doors with a select few on council with the administration. And that gives me really a really cause for concern. Now, the other major issue from last night was and I'm very sad to say that all of the concept designs for the city's major streets, so we're talking Melbourne Street, Hutt Street, Hindley Street, have all been, their budgets have been absolutely slashed. So the council went out and started concept designs on major streets within the city. Those cities were Hutt Street, Hindley Street, Melbourne Street, O'Connell Street. And it was estimated that to deliver on those concept designs, the cost would be $140 million. 2 hours before the meeting last night, the budget for that was allocated at $45 million for these major streets. Now, this represents a massive reduction in the proposed concept design. And if you're looking at the actual debt budget of council, I can't see any way that we're going to be able to fund the $100 million. And I don't see any will from council to be able to find a solution for that. And I believe that there is. So I have real concerns for the traders, particularly of Hutt Street in my ward, where they've been consulting on this since 2018. So they've run a 5-year process. And last night, that budget for, I think it was between $30 and $40 million to upgrade Hutt Street in a major redevelopment of the street, major revitalization with lighting, streetscapes, has now been cut to $10 million, but not this year, not next year, but it's the year after. So in 3 years' time, that's when Hutt Street is going to see these upgrades. And I would think that the traders there who have invested a significant amount of money on the back of previous consultation and previous, guarantees really given by council that these projects would go ahead, I would be extremely upset and disappointed by this now $10 million budget allocation. Because if you are a Hutt Street trader, the council will be moving on to other streets like Melbourne Street, O'Connell Street, and I don't feel that they will ever be able to deliver the upgrade in full. And what that means, though, is that there's a whole bunch of wasted money. So the concept designs also look at lighting in the precinct and underground works in terms of stormwater, but also quite serious street upgrades where there was bike paths and footpaths being put in place and expanded, roadside and outdoor dining spaces, as well as street furniture and trees. And that was going to be along the entire street. So now that we're allocating $10 million of that, it could be that the paving gets redone. But what about the lighting infrastructure? How much is that going to cost? And the council has been left completely in the lurch. I feel that other councils feel very confident about this, but if you ask them exactly what's going to happen, is the lighting going to be delivered? Is the streetscape going to be delivered? Is the footpaths going to be delivered? What out of this massive budget, and it's only a third of the budget, is now going to be cut? So, and that's a problem for our whole city. I think that's really, really disappointing for our city as a whole, and I think that it displays a lack of a long-term vision. If these streets took longer to get done, and they were done over 10 years perhaps, rather than being trying to rush through in this council, I feel that it would deliver a much better outcome for our city. But as the Deputy Lord Mayor said, we can now go out to our community and tell everybody that we've done all these, 4 major streets in one council term. And I think that is a disappointing outcome for the city when we should be doing, in the next breath, the Deputy Lord Mayor then said that we need to do things right, do it one time, and only dig it up once. And I fear now that these concept plans will be at risk with cost blowouts. Just going through the rest of the agenda, we had the CEO performance review panel. The KPIs were set for our CEO, which I thought were actually quite in line with some of the outcomes that the city would like. We also went through council rate rebates, and you might not know this, but I think it's about $5 million is actually rebated, and they normally go to schools or hospitals or religious institutions. Yeah, so the figure is about $6 million worth of rates that the City of Adelaide doesn't collect. So as the Adelaide University expands its land owning, we actually receive less rates as a result of that. And it's something to note, because whilst the Adelaide City needs to invest in its infrastructure, we've actually got a number of tenants or quite large institutions which don't have to pay rates. And that, I think does put a challenging, puts a significant weight on the council to actually deliver on its infrastructure projects, when many of these institutions are benefiting from the revitalisation of Adelaide streets, but they actually don't contribute to it. We also had a petition in relation to the Park 27B lighting, and there was 210 signatures requesting that we upgrade the lighting facilities there. You may also have heard of in the news about a significant increase in the crime rate, and a lot of people were concerned about safety on their streets in the City of Adelaide. There was a motion without notice from Councillor Abrahimzadeh to get a report into that. into the increased crime rates and what can be done. I know that the Lord Mayor has been speaking with police and other government agencies to try and address the issue. My concern is particularly along Bank Street, where lighting is quite poor, and it was explained to us that some of the lights actually don't come on because of the sensors in place, and it's actually quite a difficult prospect to change the time when the lights come on to increase that level of safety just through passive lighting. So hopefully we'll receive a report back in the coming weeks on that particular issue. So in summary, I remain extremely concerned and disappointed by this budget, and I do think that the council has shown a lack of vision for our city. We were originally contemplating a very sophisticated and detailed approach to our city's upgrades and their streets. There's been a massive cut to that. The parking and restrictions, I believe, will restrict people coming to the city. Outdoor dining fees are then laid on top of that, reducing the profitability of our traders, and I don't think it's going to do anything to make sure that properties are continuing to be leased. And then further, our major events are being hit with fees in the parklands, which they can ill afford, and we heard deputations as well. So overall, I'm extremely concerned for the city going forward in the future. We still need to prepare our long-term financial plan, and I hope beyond hope that the council can correct some of the deficiencies in our much sorely needed infrastructure investment in the city through that process. So I'll talk about it more at the next podcast. But otherwise, thank you for joining me, and good luck to you. Bye.